together forever, and it is not to be taken lightly. If the solemn vows you are about to make towards each other are kept faithful, and if steadfastly you endeavor to do the will of your heavenly Father, your life will be full of joy, and the home you are establishing will abide in peace. No other ties are more tender, no other vows are more sacred than the one you now assume. I'll be reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1 through verse 13. This is what it says. If I speak in tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. For love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be still. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when perfection comes, the imperfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. Now we see but a poor reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Go ye and through thee, when the Apostle Paul wrote this letter to the church of Corinth, he understood the complexity of human relationships. The truth is that we don't always get along. When you're still dating, there's always something about the other person you deem to be so adorable. And when you get married, things often change. The one thing that once was so adorable to you can often become that very one thing that you find to be so irritating and annoying. I remember one of Jim Carrey's ex-wives saying this about him. She fell in love with him because he was very funny. But after marriage and living with him for a while, that funny thing became the most irritating thing to her. And so in all relationships, there are going to be good times, but there's also going to be times of great challenges. Several disagreements, plenty of disputes. How you deal with these difficult times will determine how successful your marriage is. Many times we have expectations in our relationships. We enter into these relationships with the thoughts that our partner will be able to live up to these expectations. And more often than not, after marriage, we find out that they can't. We find out that they're not flawless. And so sometimes in these relationships, these expectations can turn into disappointments. Disappointments can turn into resentment. Resentments then can cause detachment. And detachment then turns into separation. And that was the issue that the Apostle Paul was dealing with here with this letter. He was dealing with a church in the early first century that has become so divisive that they saw that separation was the only option for them. But here in the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians, Paul is giving them an answer to all of their problems. And this is something that can be applied to all of our human relationships, including our marriage. Paul is saying here that love is the answer to all of our issues. In 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8, the Apostle Paul echoed the very same thing that Paul is communicating here to all Christians. Peter stated, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. In verse 13, Paul said that there are three things